Welcome to another ReactJS tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a data table. This is the end result of what we're trying to achieve. This is a table displaying some sample fake transactions, and you can filter by category, like for example the currency, or by a status, for example let's say paid orders, or you could filter by amount, let's say everything between 10 and 20, also time like 25 March and after, or 27 March and after, and words, so you can search by any word in any row. For example, food gives you this, cancelled gives you the same thing. Or you can search by specific order ID like this to find a specific transaction. Also, I'm going to show you how to organize the data in pages like this and control how many results are displayed in each page like this. We're going to start from the scratch with a ReactJS project that has nothing except this header over here, and use Material UI to create this table. This is Material UI. It gives you pre-made components like the one you see here in the picture. This is what we're going to be using. So first you need to go ahead and install this to your project. Go to Products, MUI Core, Material UI, Get Started, and on the left side here, click Installation and just follow this guide. Okay, once you've installed Material UI, you can go ahead and use your components. On the left side, there is a section called Components. Click on that, and here there will be a component called Table. And there will be a sample here. Just take this and copy it into your code, and we're gonna modify this to look like the one that I showed in the beginning. Okay, so this is the table copied as it is. Here I have some sample data that I'll use to populate this table. So this table currently getting its data from these two methods over here. I'm gonna get rid of these and use my own data instead. There you go. We replaced the data with our sample data, but now we just gotta fix the time date. So this is currently displayed in timestamp, a millisecond timestamp. I'm gonna just convert it into a date string and then place it here. Now I'm not gonna write that formatting method from the scratch. One thing we all gotta learn how to do is how to ask ChatGPT to do that for us and save us some time, which is exactly what I'll do here. So here I'll just ask it to do that for me. There you go, we just saved ourselves some work and Googling. Just copy this, go back to your project and throw it here. And now I can just use this in the row for the timestamp like this. Save, and there you go. Now it's displaying the actual date string instead of the timestamp. Okay, now we can go ahead and start filtering, but before we do that, we need to create a state variable that will hold the order IDs in an array, because that will be the array that we will filter whenever we choose a filter. So let's do that like this. First thing you're gonna do is you're gonna import useState. This will allow us to create state variables in the ReactJS component. Pretty straightforward, right? Now this array is empty. We need to set it to have the value of test data when the component renders. To do that, we need to import another method called useEffect and implement it here like this. Okay, so we created a state variable that holds the ordered amount, and we populated it with the test data. And I created a method called load data from server just to simulate how it would look like if you are loading the data from an external source, let's say your cloud database or your server or whatever. But instead, I'm having it just return the test data that we have, and pretty much the same idea. Okay, so now we create a state variable that holds the orders. Now we just need to use that in our table like this. And we refresh and everything is still the same, which is great. Before we start building the filters, we need to order things a bit. So I'm going to create a method that renders the table and just place it there. I'm going to create another method that renders the filters that I'm going to implement in a bit. There you go. Now I'm going to start implementing my filters here inside this method, just to keep everything neat and in order. So I'll start doing that. I'll create two diffs on top of each other. One is going to have two filters, and the other one will have the other two filters that we're going to implement. We're going to implement an amount filter, time filter, category filter, and a word filter. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to start with implementing the category filter. To do that, we will need to first implement a state variable that will hold the filter value after we select it. And then after that, we're going to build the filter component. And then after that, we're going to build the filtering logic inside useEffect. And then we're going to add the filter values, the filter state variable, as a dependency to useEffect, so that whenever that filter state variable changes, useEffect will get re-triggered and the filtering will kick in. Now, I'm just saying it, but it will make sense as we implement it. So follow along and watch this. Okay, this is the state variables. Now we're gonna build a component here that uses these state variables to set them basically. So go back to Material UI website, and here in the components list, you'll find a component called select. You're gonna find the basic example here, and this is all what you need. Just make sure to import the components for it in your project so you can start using it like this. I'm gonna get rid of select change event because we don't really need that. I'm gonna show you how to implement it without that. Okay, we implement the filter component for currency filter, and now we need to implement the filtering logic inside useEffect. And we can do that by creating a condition here after the data is loaded that checks if the currency filter is not null, which means the value has been selected. Then you go ahead and apply the filtering logic here on loaded data. And again, to know how to do that, I just asked ChatGPT to give me an example, and I can just copy this example over here, use it in my code, and change the variable name. So here I'm filtering loaded data, which is already defined, so I can remove this let. Again, loaded data is the array that I'm filtering, and here I'm just gonna change this to say order because it makes more sense to me. And I'm filtering the currency, and I'm checking if the currency value of that order is equal to my currency filter selected value. After this is done, set orders will be we'll have the value of the new loaded data, the filtered one. So if we save and then we select a currency, nothing happens because I forgot to add the currency filter state variable as a dependency for useEffect, so that when this changes using set currency filter, it will trigger a re-render for the component and it will perform the filtering. So now if I save and I select the currency, there you go, the filter works. Now I'm just going to replicate the same work for the status filter, and this is going to be a recurring theme for all the filters. It goes like this: you create the state variable, you create the component, you do the filtering logic inside useEffect, and then you add the state variable as a dependency for the dependency array in useEffect. That's how it's going to be for all our filters. So I'm going to do the same thing quickly for status. Okay, there you go. And just add status filter here as well. Now, if I select the filter value for the status, it's going to update. And I can also do the same thing for the currency here to filter it even more down. Okay, now we just need to add a button next to each filter to set the state variable for that filter back to null so that it can remove it. So for that, we go back to Material UI components. Here there's a component called button. We just use that. It's very simple to implement. Save. And then there's another component called material icons. Where is it? Material icons, there you go. And here we're going to search for just an icon component that we could use as the filter button. So here I'm just going to use clear imported. Now I can go ahead and implement this under render filters here, where I was working on before. So here I'm just gonna do a button, and inside the button is the clear icon, and this button, when clicked, it will set currency, in this case, to null. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the status filter. Set status filter to null. Okay, there you go. Now we have the buttons here. If I select a Saudi Riyal currency, for example, and then I click on this, it cancels it. If I select canceled and then I cancel it, it cancels the cancel. Okay, so that's how you implement the category filters. To implement the amount filter, we need to use text fields to collect the amount and then set it as a state variable. Speaking of state variables, then we need to create a state variable for maximum amount and minimum amount, like this. Okay, we have the state variables in here. Now we need to implement some text fields for setting these. So go back to material icons here, look for the text field component, import it, and now you can use it in your code like this. Okay, now I'm going to implement two fields, one that collects the minimum and one collects the maximum, and I'm going to put them next to each other. Okay, there you go. We implemented the components that collect the value for the filters, for the amount filters. Now we gotta do the same thing. We gotta go here and use effect, and this time without a condition, because the value is always there. Copy this and change the logic to check for the amount instead of the order status. So here you say order amount is bigger or equal to amount min, and order dot amount is smaller or equal to amount max. And you can remove this here, save, and don't forget to add it as a dependency. So amount min and amount max are gonna both be there. So save. Now we can do, if you filter between 10 and 20, you get the orders between 10 and 20. So that's how you do the amount filter. Very simple, same stuff, just different state variables. Okay, so now we're going to implement the date filter, which is a little more tricky. Material UI has a special component. Click on this menu here called date and time pickers, and this will require you to install a special library. So you need to install this one over here that I'm highlighting. I'm going to scroll up so you can see it. This one, Material UI / X date picker. So and then go back here to the sample code, and you need to do a few things. So we need to use the one here on the bottom, actually this one here on top, the date picker. So go ahead and import that, and in order for this to work, you need to wrap your component with localization provider, this one over here. So you need to import a couple of things too as well. So these two, adapter day.js and localization provider, into your project, and then wrap this around your component here in the bottom. Now we can go ahead and use the date picker. Okay, so just like the other filters, before you implement the component, you need to go ahead and add more state variables for those. One for the date before and after. So the start date and end date. So start date. And you're going to initialize this using a timestamp. So for example, you can do like this, timestamp minus some amount for the start date. And here you can set the end date to timestamp for now, the one for now in milliseconds. Okay, now we can go ahead and implement these components. So for that, you're gonna work here under time date filter and Here you'll say, similar to the amount filter, amount, date, between, and then you're going to implement two filters here. So actually we can just go ahead and copy what we did in here to save some time, like this. But there's one thing you gotta do. This date picker doesn't take the dates as they are. You need to wrap them in a method called day.js, and you need to install it into your project. So here, go and install yarn add day.js, and after you do that, you're gonna import day.js into your project, day.js, and then you're gonna use it here inside the value. So here, day.js end date, and here the same thing, day.js start date, save, and there you go. There you have it. It's gonna be here. We need to make some space after this arrow, so margin. But things are cramped here a bit, so I need to put some space between these two rows. So you can just do that like this. Okay, now since we added the components, now we just gotta go ahead and do the filtering logic. So it's gonna be the same thing as everything else. Here, you're gonna add a new line that says the same thing you do with the amount, but instead with the timestamp. So here it's gonna be date time, or time date, larger than start date and less or equal to end date. And if you save, and let's just filter for April as an example, or let's say after 26 March. Oh yeah, it's not working because we forgot to add those state variables here. So start date, end date. Okay, now let's try it again. Now it's working. Now you can see it's filtering for 26 March and after. You don't see here anything that is earlier than 26 March. And you can still apply the other filters here. Okay, so this is how you implement the date filter. Now we're gonna move on to the next one. Okay, and now we're gonna move on to creating the last filter, which is the word filter. This is a very powerful filter. It will let you search for a word in any row, and the word could be in any column, like the description or the status or the order ID. So it's basically a filter that does everything, all the other filters. So to do that, we're going to do the same thing that we do always for all the filters, which is, first thing, add a state variable for it. Second, build a component. And to build a component, I need to use a special type of component that has a little logo at the start of it, like this. I like this. So we're gonna do the same thing, but with a search lens in the beginning. This is you can find this document in the same documentation for Material UI text field. I believe we need to import input. What else? Let's try input for now. See if we need anything else later on. And we're gonna use this input text field instead of the other text field that we always use. And here we're gonna place the input adornment, but instead of using this, we're gonna use another icon. So here we go back to the material icon. So we'll go back to this page and we search for an icon that looks like a lens. Search. There you go. This is perfect. We take this, import it. Here we place it. Okay, let's take a look how it looks like. Okay, cool. But we just need this to be in the start, not the end. And we need to have a label and a placeholder. Placeholder will say search. It will give examples. So we'll say example, order IDs, description, status, etc. This is taking up much space. I'll just remove status. Value is going to be word filter. Change is going to be set word filter. For label, we're going to have to import input label. That's what I was missing. So input label, copy this, import it to your project, and this all needs to happen inside form control component. Input label goes here, and we'll say search for a word. Okay, what I do? It's already been declared. Let me remove that. There you go. Now we just need to make it wider. 200, 400, 300. 400 seems to be like the sweet spot. and we need to make some space between the table and the filters. Okay, perfect. Okay, now we need to get this to work. So when I search, nothing happens. Oh, it's because this value, we need to remove it. We don't need it. Now it works, but still nothing happens, and this is because you need to add the filtering logic here. And okay, now this is where we need ChatGPT again. So go back to ChatGPT and ask it, how can I check if an object contain a word in one of its keys, in one of its attributes. Okay, there you go. That's better. We're gonna put this inside our old filter method. So go back here, create a new filter. Let me just move stuff around. This is gonna be the word filter, and here remove all of this. Go back to ChatGPT, copy this answer, and here we put order and value to string includes word filter. But for this to work, make sure to convert everything to lowercase so that it can find it regardless of what is the case. So to string and to lowercase. Okay, now it's working. It's already working because when I search, it can't find anything. Let's see, book. No, it's not working, sorry. It's because I forgot to add word filter over here. Okay, now let's try again. Book, there you go. Now let's search for a specific order. This one. There you go. Now our word filter is working, which is great. Okay, so that is the last filter. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to divide this into pages, because this is 57 rows of transactions. I'm gonna divide it into pages of 10, so it's gonna be 6 pages, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 7. Currently, our orders array just stores everything like a regular array, but to organize it into pages, we need to reorder our data into an array of arrays. So each element in the order array will be an array of orders, and then you'll display that sub-array as the data for your page. So again, to do this, we can ask ChatGPT to help us reorganize this, rearrange this into an array of arrays. And we can ask her again the exact thing that we want to do, like this. See, this is beautiful, and but at the same time, this is scary because all of us are going to be out of jobs. But it's beautiful in the sense that as long as you have the right idea, you don't have to worry about how to code it. You can have this bot over here translate what you're trying to do into code, which is what it just did right now. So it gave me this, and I'm going to use it to rearrange my array into an array of arrays. Check this out. Here I told ChatGPT that I have 57 objects, and I want to divide them into this: 10 objects, 10 objects, 10 objects, 10 objects, 10 objects, 7 objects. This resembles how a set of pages will be organized too. And it gave me the chunk size 10. The chunk size is going to be the number of results that we display in a page. So we're going to create a state variable that sets the chunk size later. But first, let me divide it into pages right now with a static chunk size, and then I'll show you how to control the number of results that are shown in a page. So go ahead and copy this for loop over here and go back to use effect, and here right at the beginning you're gonna implement this, and loaded data is gonna be our array of objects. Chunk size is gonna be, well, let's create that state variable now. Results per page, set results per page, and it's gonna be 10 for now. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here in place of chunk size. I'm gonna create a new array. I'll call it array of arrays, and then after this is done, you're gonna set loaded data to array of arrays. Actually, we need to do this at the end of the filtering, before you set the state variable orders. So here you do this, okay, and when you do this, it'll break, and this is because you need to update what's going on in the render table function. Here it's just rendering the array of arrays, here, but you need to select exactly the current page that it should be displaying, which array it's displaying. So here I'll do 0 and it works, right? And it's displaying only 10, but 0 needs to be a state variable as well, which we call page number. That's what we're going to control later, to control the navigation between the result pages. So copy this and go create another state variable for it. Set page number, use state, nope, use state. It's going to be 0 too. Cool. What do I do? Okay. Oh, so after you change orders to be an array of arrays, you also need to initialize it as an array of arrays, okay, so that you don't get that error, otherwise it's going to be undefined. Okay, so this is how we divide into pages. Now we just need to control the navigation between the pages, and to do that you need to go over here to the table itself, and here you have your table rows. You just need to add a row outside this orders array that will contain the controls for going between the pages. Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward through this part. Okay, there you have it. We're now able to navigate between the pages here using these arrows. So what I did is that I just created 2 buttons and put 2 arrow icons in front of them, and I made the back button only appears when the page number is not the first page, so it's not 0. Okay, then it will appear, and then when we're at the end, to prevent the page number from going out of the array index, out of the maximum array index, I set a similar value for the forward arrow, so it will not appear if the page number is currently the highest page number. It will disappear. So this is how you create pages and navigate between them, and now I'm going to show you how to control the size of the page. We already have a state variable here called results per page. Now all we gotta do is create a selector here that that controls how many rows are gonna be in a page. So to do that, just use the same selector that you've used for the currency and status filters. So go back here, and I'll just create another cell that will contain that selector. Alright, and actually I'm gonna make it before it, and here I'm gonna implement the selector, so I'll fast forward through that as well and then explain what I did. Okay, there you have it. This is the component. All I did is that I created some options here for how many rows you want to display per page, and then I did in another cell here in the last row, I created a selector, this one here, which renders that array of options that I showed earlier. And then when the user selects something, it's gonna set the state variable results per page to that selected value. Now I just gotta add that again to use effect dependencies. So results per page, save, and let's try. 10, 25, 50 should have 2 pages. One that has 50 and one has 7. Okay, and this is all actually. We showed you how to create 4 different type of filters. We showed you how to create the number of pages and how to navigate between these pages. Okay, and that's all that I'm going to show for this video for now. It's a lot already. It's a pretty long video, but I hope it was useful. I hope you learned a lot from it. And if you have any questions, please put them below in the comments section. Make sure you subscribe, and if you'd like to support the channel and in return get access to the full source code that was used for this video so you don't have to build this from the scratch, please subscribe to my Patreon, link below in the description box. And that's all for now. Thank you and have a good day. See you next time.